Hello and welcome to another MTDCNC podcast. This one being filmed here from our headquarters in Burton Latimer. Something very special coming up in today's podcast and something pretty different to what we normally talk about. I'm Paul Jones, the founder and CEO of MTDCNC, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by James Leet, who I've known for some time. And James, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Now from Moon Shooting.
Moon Shooting, that's right.
So much coming up in this podcast. We're going to be talking about the offerings of James's new business, talking about sales training, leadership training, communication and engagement. These are all topics that we'll be covering, and all topics that James's business now look to the market to help people with. And that's probably a good place to start, James. Hopefully I haven't stolen your thunder too much, but perhaps tell us a little bit about yourself and where Moon Shooting came from, and give us a quick overview.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So obviously a lot of people will know me from your productions with a Haas shirt on, and I've been an advocate of that brand for many, many years, and a passionate one, and still am. That still runs through. But what several people don't know about me is that before I joined Haas, I did have a training company. So training is a passion of mine. Helping people with their own personal development has always been a passion of mine, and of course businesses. So I wanted to engage with this company, Moon Shooting. It's my idea, my new business. The name is interesting, and you asked me about it earlier.
Well, it's going to be a point. It wants you. People, I'm sure people ask you all the time.
Yeah, they do, and that's quite nice because it is unusual, and it's not something that you would normally see. Certainly in an engineering and manufacturing background, is moon shooting. What's that all about? So it does beg the question. So it's nice to have that conversation. Simply, my wife and I love the moon and look at it of an evening, as many people do. So that was kind of in there. But then I also had an interest in publishing books some time ago. I've written a couple, and wanted to put together a publishing company called Moon Robin, which it exists in the background there, and might be something I'll wake up another time. So there was a link to that. And that then got me thinking about tying the two things together potentially. And then moon shooting has the connotation of shoot for the moon. You might land up in the stars, and that kind of talks to training, development, and personal development, and those kinds of things. And then that's how these thoughts tumble at 3 o'clock in the morning, isn't it? And started to put logo ideas together. And this whole arrow shooting through phases of the moon kind of resonated with the developmental journey of an individual or a business as we knock these things off. It's almost a little bit like a camera shutter as well with your guys. Yeah. It phases through, and then it just started to roll, and it just started to stick. So yeah, it's from innocent conversations about what do you like around the fireside at home to how would that then fit with the business, to a conversation point. And absolutely, now we can talk to clients and say, look, we want to come into your business. We want to look at the phases that we can take you through. Yeah, we're going to shoot for the moon. Why not? Let's talk about that. But let's then set some goals around what good looks like. And
it's clear, and it comes across on camera, and has done previous to this shoot, and is now, about your passion for this subject. I suppose that's really important, isn't it? You've got to have that want and that desire, because without that, you can't deliver what you're trying to do.
I think it's important on many levels, because the passion gives you the gravitas to deliver with passion and conviction and belief, which is a huge thing. But also it's given me an interest over decades of really knowing this stuff in depth. So one of the benefits, that there are loads of people in this space. There are loads of training companies out there, loads of professional training organisations, all of which are great. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in business. One of the things that I'm quite proud of is my track record in industry and my experiential journey through industry. So I can bring something to the party. It's not unique. Lots of people can. But I know the stuff. I've lived the stuff. I've seen the evidence of how it lands with people. And you're right, that having that passion and belief behind it, it helps people with the confidence to learn, but also gives them the feeling of we're getting somewhere with this stuff. So it's crucial. Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to cover now what you do offer. Let's talk about exactly what you do offer to really whet the appetite of the listener and the viewer.
Yeah, sure. So there's 3 broad topics, and those topics are woven together inevitably. So the first topic is sales. So as many people know, I've been involved with sales for most of my working life. Started off my career in the Royal Navy, of all places. Didn't do a lot of selling there, but yeah, I've been involved with sales, especially in manufacturing, for decades.
Where did you travel in the Navy?
Just about everywhere. Yeah, no,
we can discuss that on another.
Yeah,
podcast,
no, that's another trip. Yeah, that's another 20-minute podcast.
Yeah.
So the sales side of things, there are obviously skills within sales to learn. There's the basic selling skills, but there's also then the more advanced selling skills. Depends on the commodity that you're doing. Is it consumables? Is it high value capital machinery? But within sales, there's also sales management, sales development, and the way that we sell post-COVID has changed as well. So the whole science of selling and coming across with sincerity and having conversations and the techniques involved, it's such a vast subject, as we all know, and we all learn every day as to how to sell. So selling was an obvious thing to talk about, and it's something that I've done in my day job, working for Haas in helping to develop sales engineers, evolving them from applications engineers into sales over the years. So that's a skill set that's been there. But then leadership is the next subject, and I want to qualify that because leadership is huge as a topic. And there are several levels of leadership, of course. There's strategic leadership, which is about the direction you're going to take your business. There's operational leadership, which business owners will understand all of the nuances of. And then there's team leadership, which is arguably a level down again, but the dynamics of running a high-performance team is very different to the dynamics of strategic thought leadership. And it's an area, certainly I've seen within the subcontract industry, where people struggle. Take, for example, your best machine operator. Why wouldn't you promote them to be the shop floor supervisor? Makes sense until you're actually in that position. And I think a lot of us have been in that position. Suddenly you're promoted, you're gifted this poison chalice of promotion. We're going to make you the team leader. And it's actually the classic hospital pass, because you're now the boss of your mates. And without a bit of help, that can be quite a daunting and intimidating process. And a lot of businesses struggle with that transition. So there's quite a lot I can do there in terms of running workshops to help people with the theory of it, but then also plenty of coaching to actually put that into place in an environment that I understand. Because I've been involved with running machine shops as well as a family business. So
because there's a lot of machinists that you talk about, using the example that wouldn't want to become a leader in a way, was there? But maybe they wouldn't know that until they'd actually experienced it, learnt about it.
Yeah.
Kind of, sat into maybe a workshop and understood whether it is something for them, and understanding whether that transition will be easy and what the potential pitfalls are. Because
absolutely, and the conversation actually starts much higher than that. So I'm engaged with a couple of organisations at the moment, and by the very nature of that work, I won't disclose who they are, but we're talking about what that journey should look like. How can we identify who should be put into that position? How can we help certain people in other positions that are overwhelmed with that? So my offering is not just about trying to deliver a workshop for a couple of days to help people with some leadership skills. It's also consultative around, okay, let's have a look at how we can look at the business with a fresh pair of eyes, find a way forward, and then after that bit's done, after the cultural change part of it's done, because this is a bit of change management, of course, that we're talking about here. Once that bit's done, how do we then put the skills in place? Because if you put the skills in place at the bottom end, but that middle bit isn't in complete synergy with that, it's never going to work anyway. You're going to have a communications blocker. Sales and leadership are actually very, very similar. It's the ability to get people to do the things that they otherwise wouldn't have chosen to do that morning, but quite willingly. And when that transaction's finished, they're delighted about it. So they'd like to buy again, please. That's true sales and true leadership, rather than sell this once, close, boss, boss, boss.
I've got a bit of experience in both of those, which I want to come back to. But before we do that, I want you to tell me about the third one that you were going
Yes. So the third one is really where the idea all kicked off from. So as many of these things happen, a conversation in a pub, chat. How have you found things post-COVID? We're finding that our organisation are really struggling to get people to engage with the public again post-COVID. Our people are almost not afraid, but certainly reluctant to communicate, re-engage. They can't find their feet again. They would rather sit at home on Teams or the world has changed. We all know the world has changed, and that got the conversation round to, well, yeah, why don't we look at running workshops to help your guys around just that engagement and communication piece again, almost a public speaking course to overcome fears and stresses. And then when you start to think about that, what's stress? Well, stress is basically a malformation of the flight or flight response. So that's an element of not being in control. So how do you control the controllables? And then you start to look at that. Well, that's the same in business as well. So all these pieces then start to weave together with a lot of knowledge that knits it. So that organisation is a little organisation called Age UK, and subsequently I was able to deliver a workshop.
So they were really struggling with that communication, getting people back into the offices, talking.
I think it's strong to say they were really struggling, but it's certainly if they'd seen it as, and this was for some of their senior managers in one of the divisions, by the way. So if they'd seen it as a thing, then it clearly is a thing, and it's not just with organisations like that. It's a thing everywhere. And then when you start to think about it, it is.
It is 100%.
It absolutely is.
Many companies outside of this industry, office roles, where there was a lot of big community of employees, they've been separated, they've been working from home, and now getting them all back together is an issue.
Yeah.
So I can completely see where that can be.
Well, that piece of work evolved beautifully because we presented it as let's help you with some public speaking. So one of the issues that presented was that they're having to do lots of radio interviews and things like that. They're put on the spot. So how do we help their confidence, if you like, and get that confidence back that they once had? So put together a good fun day, and that turned into then quite a nice piece on leadership as well, because a lot of these guys were responsible for their own teams, and it was, well, that would work there, wouldn't it? Absolutely. And I can use that to coach my person there, can't I? Absolutely. So all of these three topics, sales, leadership, communication and engagement, they do overlay, but within, if it was a mind map, they are three different branches that can then branch off to all sorts of different areas.
My experience in sales, I've had sales training. I'm going back a couple of decades ago now. And I remember when it was voiced, it was said it was going to happen. I was very, very, dismissive of it. I was, do you know what? I think as a lot of salespeople maybe, kind of, is this for me? Yep. Nobody can tell me how to sell. I know my territory. I know this. I know what to say. And I actually had two. I had one course that was for a week. We went to Amsterdam. We had sales. We had negotiation. And then I had one that was for 2 days, which was at my previous company in Luton. If I look back now, I did learn a lot. I learned a lot, and I was telling a colleague earlier that one of the things in preparation for this, one of the things I did learn was about qualification. Yeah. Qualification.
Yes.
And I think it's one of the most important. I consider it to be the most important part of selling, other than potentially closing the deal. Those two things, and qualifying a sales lead. Now I believe I'm quite good at it, but I still see people that aren't.
Yes.
And I look at it and go, I can understand how sales training can help with that process, and that can be invaluable, because if you have a few hundred inquiries, which you consider inquiries, but only 2 or 3 of them are any good and have been qualified correctly, then you can waste an inordinate amount of time. So that's just one thing that I took from it. Plus, and I remember the guy that took the course as well. There was another thing, negotiation.
Yep.
Really, really strong on negotiation. You give that away, you need a bit back, you this, and having these role plays, which were quite intimidating at the time, because you've got to do it in front of an audience, and it'd catch you out, and we had to negotiate with him, and it was quite good because he was the expert in negotiation, and he won it was, but it was always about this win-win as well. So they 100% there is, and with all of these things, James, people want, when they're buying something or paying for something, they want a return on investment. They want the value. How do you demonstrate that?
Well, with sales, of course, it's easy. So if I can help an organisation sell a bit more, they know the margins that they're selling. And, if it's high value capital machinery, for example, there will be margins involved with that you can soon qualify. Well, if that person that I've helped sells so many more this year, then it's more than paid for itself. But also, and we talked about qualifying before, and that's a good example to use with qualifying. So most qualification comes from people that are asked for a forecast. That's what qualification means. So what are you going to sell this week, Mr. Salesman? What's your forecast? How are you qualifying what your leads are going to generate for yourself? And most of the guys will do it on an instinct, and most of them will say 50-50. That's kind of, a generic, 50-50. I'm not going to commit either way. And some of them that got a really strong instinct will say, I'm 80% sure that nobody will ever say 100% normally. And if they do, it's kind of, wow, I'm really out there to dry. So helping those guys qualify with certain parameters is dead easy. Instinct plays an absolute part because sales is a skills game. It's not a numbers game. The good guys have a skill. They have an instinct. They have something that is driving them inside to do it. You've done it. I've done it.
And I love this conversation. I love this because I've lived and breathed everything you're talking about, and I've got so much to contribute. But I'm carry on.
but there are other elements other than instinct. Elements that involve what the customer's process is in. So, what is the customer thinking about that part? What's the customer thinking about that part? I'm not going to go into the details of that's not for this, but you know where I'm coming from. And a lot of sales training revolves around this sales process. So if you say this, they'll say that. If you open that door, that one closes and will lead somebody to that decision and then close it, bang. So my take on this is, that has its place. There is a process that a sales guy has to go through. However, there's another process going on. It's the buy-in process. Where are those guys at? Where are the conversations about where are they at? That's where the qualification comes from. Let me qualify where you are in your process, Mr. Customer. Now that's a deeper skill, and it takes a lot more intuitive training, experience, practice. Let's give this a go. The amount of guys I've been out with, for example, people that know me will know one of my sayings is, look, you need to be sincere in your style. So rookie sales guys, I'll call them that have come to me for help, whether it be at Hass or anywhere else, have said, right, I need a script. Give me the pitch. What's the pitch? Well, the moment you go in with a pitch, you're doomed. And it's the hardest thing in the world to sell to a fresh audience with a pitch, because none of us like an advert. We just swipe on to the program. We want the content. Where's the content? Yeah. So that ability to be you sincerely in your own style and actually have a conversation with a stranger, that's the job. Once you're into the conversation, your job then is to extract all of this information. Sounds really simple, but there are so many elements of it and so many what ifs. And that's some of the area that we explore.
And I think the beauty of what we're talking about here is there's so much you can do wrong. There's so much you can do. I can think of countless examples in my career where I've done things and I looked back in the later stages of my selling career and thought, God, I learned so much from that. One of my old managing directors used to say to me, if I used to say, it's 80%, you talk about your sales, I mean, 80%, I'm going to get that. Okay, well, what have you spoken to him about? Have you covered this? Have you covered that? Questions like, has he raised an objection?
Yeah.
Has he rang you yet and asked you a question? You go, no. If he's not raised an objection, he's not interested. And then you go, what do you mean? Well, no, he doesn't need to ring me. I've told him everything. You've never told him everything. When he rings you and then sure enough, a bit later on in your sales journey, you'd get into negotiations and what have you, and customers would be ringing me and saying, Paul, has that got collet chuck on? Has it got tool setting arm? And I'm going, these are these are things that are showing that that it's beginning to knit together.
Yeah.
And if those things aren't happening, if you're making doing all the legwork, you're not qualifying it properly, I suppose.
No, that's right. And actually what happens, and you'll have this experience as well, is that it can be really good at the start and these conversations are flowing, and then suddenly everything goes quiet and you can't get hold of the people. What's happening with that? Don't know. Where do you go from there?
Yeah.
And that's a skill in itself, about waking the conversation up. And that is all about, again, qualifying where we're at with the process. And sometimes it's as simple as actually throwing it out to the customer and saying, well, can I assume this is not going ahead now? And then you get, oh, no, I'm not saying that. So where are we then? And then you've woken it up again, there's little things like that. But yeah, back to your question about return on investment. We could wax lyrical about sales. You and I have that background. There is so much to it, and it's very easy to see whether it's a fun
occupation as well. When you get it can be very frustrating and
it's hugely rewarding.
Really
but high risk, high reward. It's one of the loneliest jobs in the world. Of course, the first thing that I usually say to people that have never been in sales that want to come, why on earth do you want to do that? And that is again to flush out that they're the right sort of person. There has to be something, and again, tip to people that are hiring salespeople: you can't turn somebody that hasn't got that X factor into a salesperson. They have to have an element of self-drive, that fire, that burn. It's got to be in there. Our job then is to develop it and hone it and make sure that that skill stays within the organisation that is developing it as well, which is a key point. So coming back to return on investment, sales easy. The leadership and communication stuff is easy, but it takes a little bit more depth to look at that. So let's look at another issue that is certainly prevalent in the manufacturing industry at the moment. Everybody has been talking for years about can't get staff. Where are the next batch of engineers coming from? I need people, need good people, but also I need people that can run machines, not just the people that are going to be our next future leaders or our programmers, or I want good operators. All of that is really important. So keeping and attracting and then retaining and developing that team is another thing that I desperately want to help organisations with and get passionate about. So I want to train people to stay is a phrase that I've been using. So I am engaged with a couple of customers at the moment with exactly that, looking at how to create a high performance team, how to engender trust within an organisation where people can push back with some difficult questions and actually realise what they want out of an organisation. Not everybody wants promotion. Some people find an awful lot of what I call mental peace just operating a machine. What they want is, I need security. I need to know that this job's here for the next 12 months. How can I best fit into that? Yeah. What happens when this job runs out? Is there another job going forward? So just helping organisations actually manage their teams and giving people the skills to lead with, not just motivation, because motivation gets you going. That's all. It doesn't keep you going. Habits keep you going. So putting a set of habits in place that everybody can enjoy and get a sense of satisfaction out, because progress motivates. And one of the analogies that I use quite often in the training environment is, we've all lost sleep to some game or something, because that's how the brain works. It's addictive. So, we've all been on a Nintendo or whatever it might be. And
Pac-Man.
Yeah, and back in our day, yeah. Spitball, Sparky. But yeah, one more go. And it's that mentality of, I'm stuck on this level, one more go. Oh, it's only 10 o'clock, fine, I'll have one more go. I'll give myself till 11. Yeah. Midnight gets here and you're still going. And that time has flown by. Next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and the alarm's going to be going off in 4 hours. And that consciously this is a ridiculous thing to be doing, but something in your brain says crack that level. And at 2:30, you do. You don't go to bed, you go, let's see what level 3's like. So imagine if we can then take that, because that's the thing, that is a mental thing that happens. It's that progress that motivates.
Are you suggesting I can get my team working 24 hours a day?
Absolutely, yeah, and I'll send you the bill. And then you can tell me how the return on investment worked out.
It's obviously a very can be and will be and is being used outside of the manufacturing sector.
Yes, definitely.
But within it, which is our target audience, big opportunity for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I've got a lot of contacts within the manufacturing industry, so they've already talked to me, they know me and trust me, so that helps. But there's a big opportunity both in this sector and outside of that sector. Candidly, I was worried in case those skills didn't transfer out, but I mentioned Age UK earlier. We're all human beings, and the feedback that I got from that was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So it tells me that this stuff really lands well, which I knew it did.
Well, I can speak from experience as I have. I know, and also running a company, I know how important leadership is, and know in the current day where getting good staff it's hard. You want to retain them, you want to motivate them. So I can completely see everything that you're doing and wish you all the success with it, James. And any help we can give you along the way, of course, we will. Perhaps you can train our guys.
Yeah, we'll give it a go.
Yeah. They're untrainable.
Well, yeah. There's a phrase for that, but you can't put it on camera.
Yeah. James, thank you very much for joining me here today on this podcast. And as I say, wish you every success for the future.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the MTD podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on mtdcnc.com.